Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chop Talk. I'm your host, Choppadong, brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one, your only stop for DFS sports, everything from MMA to PGA to NBA to, well, we have a U.S. Open PGA event going on right now. Hopefully you guys are playing that and watching everybody with over par scores freak out, not realizing it's actually the U.S. Open, and that's pretty normal. Maybe you're wanting to play MMA next week. Maybe you're wanting to play NASCAR this week and test the road track out. Maybe you're a WNBA guy. Maybe you're into World Cup soccer. Doesn't matter. We got it all. DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for every sport DFS, coaching tools, optimizers, the whole bit. Check the comment section. You can sign up down there. Coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, 10% off, all that stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to dive in today, and we're going to talk a little bit about the four-game main slate. I'm going to quickly scan for weather here. Oh, see, here's one thing that I look for. When I see there's, and 30% is not high, but when I look for a weather chance and I see that and it starts to taper off as the night goes, that game doesn't scare me in the least. Even if it's 70, 50, 40, 20, that game usually plays because the rain chances wane as the storms and everything pass through. And that usually will that tells me late start type stuff versus a delay. Now, if I see something early on and then it starts to build, like starts off 0, 10, 30, 50, 80, 90, that starts to scare me. So I watch the trends, and is the general trend going less chances or going more chances? And that's what I'm going to watch when it comes to watching a little bit of the weather. But of course, the main thing I do is tune into our Slack channels for VIPs and DFS Weather Mark, because the dude is absolutely on the ball. Shows you radar, talks about storm movement, talks about back building, all the meteorological terms that you may or may not know to tell you what games to play and what games to fade when it comes to weather. So great idea there. And then 2 dome games later, so didn't even need to look down there. What we see is a big favorite here, somewhat decent totals, 9 out in Arizona, smaller favorite. So nothing much, nothing dominant when it really comes down to it. I got asked in Slack about Anibal Sanchez. Yeah, he might be lead dog on the slate tonight when you look at that price right there. But it's going to depend on whether or not he gets deep into the game and things like that. David Price is in play. Where's Snell? Snell's kind of in play. German is in play. These are the kinds of names that I'm looking for. I wouldn't run Felix Hernandez or Matt Koch or anything like that. And I'm going to be looking to attack the soft guys with bats. So you know what I'm doing? I'm diving into the research station. And when we go to the starting pitchers tab and we kick off onto the main slate with these 4 things, you know what I'm going to look for? I'm going to look for DFSA grade 94 for Anibal Sanchez. Apparently the RS, the research station, likes him. Domingo German is second on the slate. Snell is in play. David Price a little sketchy in that matchup. Down here are the guys we want to target. So when I look at the K-score for the handedness, you'll see this in the graphic when I get it up. That's a 460, 472-ish for Anibal Sanchez. When you look at German, we've got a 470, 485, and Snell is a 460, and Price is like a 430. So you can already tell you want to get as high, as close as you can to the top guy on the slate, whether it's a 450 or a 500. You kind of take what the slate gives you. Yesterday, Chris Sale was a 580. You want to take what the slate gives you. Everything is relative. Everything is compared to what we are offered on the slate. And we don't have a great pitcher that we're really going to be safe rostering tonight, but we do have a decent pitcher in a pretty strong matchup. So we're probably going to wind up rolling for that. But again, if you go out and make 3, 4, 5 lineups, I wouldn't put Sanchez in all 5 of my lineups. I'd probably in 3 of 5 be an initial target, and then I'd mix in some German and some Snell in case one of those guys has the good night, because it's just not an overwhelmingly safe situation for one pitcher over all of the others. I'm going to want a bunch of different exposure. I think he's going to be very, very popular given his matchup, given his price, and I think that people are really going to dive in to Yankees and Boston bats and things like that. And let me show you something really quickly with the Yankees, why I will not be on them today. If you jump over to the first look article that Notorious does with the right-handed and left-handed opposing batting averages, look at the Yankees. Great run total, right? And they could explode. They should explode. They should score plenty of runs. It's not like Blake Snell is some, second coming of Sandy Koufax. But look at his average. He only gives up a 267 to lefties and a 299 to righties. He's going to give the Yankees a little bit of trouble. He should. Now, the Yankees are, a very, very good offense, and in a lot of cases, they're still going to score some runs. He's not going to completely shut them down and no hit them or anything like that. But, and it could be that he walks two batters in a row or gives up some cheesy infield hit, and then some dude comes up and part of the 300 average, bam, hits a home run. And that's legit. Just happen to be guys on base. Sometimes it happens. Who cares? It's baseball. We don't know what's going to happen. What we know is that most of the time it looks like he's going to put a lid on the Yankees and give his team a good chance to win. So when we scroll back up here, looking here, when I find Snell at New York, I find the plus 170. Okay, so the overwhelming favorite for New York. I was hoping that would be like David Price and be a little bit more of an even type pick'em situation, but it's clearly not. I just don't like the double red. I stick with the double blues. So I'm going to like Arizona, and I'm going to like Boston, and I'm going to like even the New York Mets today. And then I'll show you something with the Mets here when we dive back into the research station. But this is how I start formulating my head. Sorry, how I start putting things together. I think that Anibal Sanchez is going to be very popular. I think Germán's going to be pretty popular. I think Snell will be the forgotten man because he's priced too high, and I think that Price will be priced too high and will be somewhat forgotten. So these are going to be your chalky pitchers, and what that low salary means is that your expensive Yankee and Boston bats are probably going to be the expensive bats that people are choosing because, or maybe even some Atlanta because, hey, they're in pretty good spots, and oh my God, we finally get a chance to stack them up. So I think people are going to jump on that chance. I think you're going to find a lot of that. So if that's the way the slate goes tonight, I think you're going to be hard pressed to make a lot of money if you're not doing that too on such a small slate. However, on a smaller slate, if you do go against the grain, you really don't need a lot to fail. A couple of teams come out flat and zing. Now you're off and running with your secondary picks, and you're positioning yourself fairly well. And being that the 4-game slate is the main slate, you'll have the bigger tournaments on it. This is the time. You hear me preach all the time. In 100-man leagues, 300-person tournaments and stuff, don't have to take big chances to win because the money just isn't that big. You're not going to get the giant GPPs and things that warrant taking really goofy risks. A 4-game slate like tonight on the main slate with all of the bigger tournaments and stuff on it is the time to take those goofy chances. It is the time to take those real weird flyers on single entry tournaments and things and hope it comes out. Now, expect to finish last because you're taking a flyer. You're going away from the two best offenses in the league right now in New York and Boston, and you're hoping that some of these others kind of rise up and take over the night. Could happen. It's baseball. It's a fluky sport, but it isn't going to happen too terribly often. So but you're going to get paid if it works. So it's definitely worth the gamble tonight on the main slate. All right. So these are the pitchers that we're going to pick on: Ross, Hernandez, Vargas, Koch, Atlanta, Boston, Arizona, and the Mets. Yes, the Mets draw the worst pitcher on the slate. So what we're going to start doing is when we find those pitchers is we're going to dig in to Atlanta, Arizona, Boston, New York. So we go, let's start with, let's just go alphabetically. Let's start with Arizona. And what I'm going to do, whoops, I need to get into the trends tab. My bad. I've got that set up too. I'm going to go to Arizona. I've got this sorted out by 333 since it's a smaller slate. I mean, if you want to make it 350, that's fine. It's not. Please don't take my word for gospel. Like if I said 334, everybody's going to make it 334. I mean, you're cutting out a 330, which isn't that far off of a 333. And you're including a 337, which isn't that far off of a 333. All right, you want to go all the way down to 330? What the hell? Let's see if it pulls in a couple of other people. It's just not that important as far as the exact number. All I try to show you is I generally stick to around 350, 360. On bigger slates, I close down my requirements to cut out more players, to weed out more bad players. So I raise that number to 370, 380, 390, something like that. And on shorter slates, I'm going to need to have more access to those players. So I'm going to need to lower my requirements a little bit just to bring a few more guys in the fold and make them playable when they would never be playable on a 15-game slate because I have so many other options. Now, so we're set at 330, whatever. We take on Arizona, and we look, and we've got, what, 5, 6, 7 bats. Goldschmidt, Peralta, Ahmed, Lamb, Marte, Mathis if he starts. Fine. All good. I mean, you're going to want a key on Goldschmidt, but so is everybody else. 460 is great in Peralta, 435 great in Ahmed, 404 is even good in Kittle Marte. So really and truly, I'm looking for those four guys. That's who I would build around. When I go to Atlanta, Atlanta's apparently running hot. I haven't used a lot of Atlanta lately, playing smaller slates later at night. And being an East Coast team, I don't get to use a lot of Atlanta. I knew they had cooled off, but they've apparently heated back up. Freddie Freeman, 500 is great. Flowers, Suzuki, that combo of catchers, whichever one is starting is playable. Markakis at 370 is a pretty steady cash game type player. He's a great anchor for an Atlanta stack because some night, I mean, he has the power to go, big fly a couple of times in the night, but honestly, he also has the steady kind of game that really levels out. And I got kids coming in and out. Don't mind them. 574, Peter Borges. Now Borges is funny because he's a real speed demon, but with 10 at bats, then I wouldn't worry about it. He's probably not going to start. Swanson to be the other one that I'd play at the 482. Okay, when I go to Boston, I mean, these are just going to be the same old names. Same old names, same old names. Martinez, Benintendi, Moreland, Bogarts, Holt, Vasquez if he starts. I really don't need, look, Vasquez if he starts the 457. I really don't need to go into too much detail there. And when I look at the Yankees, with that opposing batting average of Blake Snell, I'm not really on them. I might run Andujar as a one-off, but a 337, 349, 390 doesn't necessarily excite me. And it gets me. This is where I get off the chalk. Everybody thinks I'm some crazy chalk eater. Just because New York's on the slate doesn't mean I'm going to run to them. I see a very clear reason why I might want to avoid them tonight. I see a second reason, a smaller reason, in that they're not really running all that hot. There's a couple of bats in there that are. And that's great. But when I look at the 300 guys, they're going to be a little pricey. 3,700 for Gleyber Torres at 337 in the last 7 days. No thanks. It's a little overpriced. I don't need to worry about him. Now, if he hits a bomb tonight, so what? I'm screwed. But I'm taking my bets based on the numbers that I see and making a logical decision based on what would happen if I ran this slate, say, 100,000 times. If I run this slate 100,000 times, these guys are going to be a little bit overpriced. They're going to have outlier performances, but generally speaking, they're going to probably not perform up to standards. Blake Snell has a low batting average against, and these guys are not running all that hot, yet they are priced high. That's not value. I don't need to overpay for stuff. The second thing I'm going to show you, that's why I'd be off of New York. The second thing I'm going to show you is the Mets. When I've got the 330 rolling with the Mets, well, whenever you're ready, Nimmo and Plawecki, that's it. That's not a good sign for somebody who's in such a great. This is what gets us into trouble. We sit there and we say, I will say things like, I don't know who's going to produce in this offense. The offense should produce, but I don't know who's going to produce. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to clear off the filters. There it is. And I'm going to bring them all up, and I'm going to see lots of red. Plawecki and Nimmo are the ones that would make the list. The rest of them aren't doing crap right now. They're hitting very, very poorly. But they're in a position tonight where they should hit. So how can we determine from these guys who might be the hitters tonight? Well, first of all, you can go top of the order. Your Fraziers, maybe some Cabrera, Conforto, stuff like that. Those are going to be guys that we're looking for to produce. When I scroll through here, I'm going to go all the way over to hard contact. Who's hitting the ball hard? Todd Frazier's hitting the ball really hard, not getting any results. Look at his BABIP, it's low. Huge hard contact and low BABIP. Maybe he gets lucky tonight and he really mashes this pitcher since he's hitting the ball well. This is another trend. Nimmo's okay. Mesoraco's hitting the ball hard. Again, no results. Cabrera's hitting the ball hard. His season's 40%, 30s, 40%, and he's hitting 50 right now. He's above his season average as far as barreling up the ball. No results. So when I look for Bautista, not hitting the ball hardly at all, no results. Well, duh. That kind of checks out in the common sense radar. 38% is not great. 100% is fine, but there's no at-bats in the sample size. I would take chances on Frazier, Mesoraco if he starts, Cabrera, and that's kind of who we would expect to do well in a situation like this. And this hard BABIP number shows that Cabrera is one of the bigger hard BABIP guys, and so is Frazier. So if you want to use that as a metric, what that shows is kind of between hard contact and between the BABIP, and shows you who should be seeing some positive regression. That would tell you. Another thing you could do is go over here to MLB to our starting lineups page. I'll look at that in a minute too, because I'm kind of trying to find an edge. This is when I'll get a little out of my routine because I want to see if I can't justify playing some Mets, because my general way of just chasing hot bats isn't going to work. Now, on a 15-game slate, I might not be doing this. On a 4-game slate, I kind of need to find these other offenses to throw into the domination station and figure it out. So, starting lineups page is another VIP tool that we have for DFS Army. Oh, by the way, guys, tomorrow's Freebie Friday. Being that tomorrow is Freebie Friday, you might want to pay attention because these tools are all open to you. I'm going to be looking for xWOBA and WOBA. I'm looking, xWOBA is what he should be doing. WOBA is what he is doing. So he should be a little better than he is, but let's be honest, the 156 and the 260 is pretty bad. So I'm not real thrilled about Conforto. Frazier should be doing 254 and he's 60. Okay, so this isn't great. Nimmo 390, 410. Look at this. Asdrubal Cabrera should be hitting at a 380 for WOBA, but he's hitting at a 150. He's getting very, very unlucky. This is a monster differential. This is something you need to pay attention to. I would throw him in with a Nimmo and, what do we say, Nimmo and Plawecki if he starts? I would run that stack tonight for sure. Would I run it in cash? Probably not, but I would run it in GPPs. Absolutely, 100%, definitely. Look at Jay Bruce at a 386 and a 236, another massive differential. Should be hitting at a 386, which would hit my radar over on the research station, is only hitting at a 236. So there's a big, he should be doing better than he is what that tells you. You can build lineups off these numbers too, guys. You just generally stick with one or the other. You'll see now that this is why I come over here, and this is why I will kind of double check and see if I can't talk myself into playing guys. Mesoraco, 262, 208. Okay, yeah, it's positive, but it's crap. So even though he's hitting the ball hard, I'm not that concerned. I'm not that thrilled with Mesoraco. I may use him if he's cheap, 2,300. But look, Asdrubal Cabrera's down to 20. This is stupid. I'm going to really like Asdrubal Cabrera tonight. Mets are in a great matchup. If I get burned, I get burned. I'll probably limit myself to maybe 2 guys from this. I'm not going to full 4 stack it, although it might do good for you if it comes through. They're in a spot that tells you that it could happen. There's a higher than average chance that they will have a good night tonight. So, but will they? I don't know. They're cold as an offense. So that's what's going to hold me back. I will have some shares of them. I will take some shots on them, but I'm not going to go overboard with it. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's dive back into the research station, and that's how I figured out. So I've got Arizona, Atlanta, Boston. I'm not going to be on New York like everybody else will be. I'm going to be off the chalk there, and I'm going to probably try and pick Mets anyway. That's what I'm going to be targeting. Those 4 teams is who I'm going to throw in and stack. I don't know if I'm going to stack them evenly. I like Boston. Atlanta's hot. Arizona's going to be cheap. I'll probably key in on those guys at, say, 60%, 60%, 60%, and maybe 20, or 50, 50, 50. I'm not going to do 50, 50, 50, 50. I'm not going to do that. I would maybe do 50, 50, 50, 50, and 10 or 20, and then let the others filter in. I might do, like I say, 55, 60, 60, and then maybe like 25 or something like that to add up to the 200,000. I'm not going to go real heavy on the Mets. I just refuse to. But I am going to have some shares. And if I build 4, 5, 6 lineups and I'm noticing the domination station, is not giving me Mets, I'm going to go back into the projections and I'm going to start tweaking it like I've showed you and pulling Mets forward because I'm going to have a couple of Mets stacks today, no matter what. I just think they're in a good spot. So anyway, under 20 minutes, that ought to do it for a quick 4-game slate breakdown for you guys. Show you some targets, where to go, who to seek out, who should be the hot bats, who should be targeted, who shouldn't be, why we might get off the chalk in a certain area, why we would eat the chalk in other areas. Hopefully it's giving you insight into how to analyze this game, how to take a look at this game, and how you use the tools and the numbers to put it forward. And really and truly, hopefully it shows you how reliant I am on this research station and our domination station optimizer. And if you're in the public out there and you're wanting to become a VIP, definitely come back tomorrow. Try us out free. Freebie Friday will be a thing. We'll unlock this research station. We will not unlock the optimizer, but we will unlock the research station. We should unlock the starting lineups page and all of our premium content, the pitching articles, the batting articles, all of that stuff. So come back and take a look at us. And then you can decide whether or not that was important to you and how you build and how you would like to build, because it just cuts time out of your day and allows you to research much, much faster by cutting through all the fluff. That's what we aim to do at dfsarmy.com. And then, of course, inside our Slack channels, which I've showed you before. We have tons and tons of guys teaching all the time, and lots of conversation going on just 24/7 when it comes to to coaching and conversation to make you a better player. So anyway, I'm Choppadong. This has been Chop Talk. Come back and see me tomorrow for Freebie Friday. Let's go kill this main slate. Let's make a lot of money, and let's convert you guys into becoming VIPs. Take care, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.